Well, welcome back to another Coffee and a Chat Saturday Survival Edition. That is like becoming a tongue twister for me. So today I want to talk about getting our heads out of the sand. You know, that's an old saying, which basically means don't be in denial or trying to avoid something. And they said that because, saying that ostriches will put their head in the sand. And so I did a little research on that because I find it interesting sometimes where sayings come from. And I thought, well, do ostriches really put their heads in the sand? And it would turn out now that the experts believe, no, they don't. They just two different times situations that give the illusion that they do. One is when they lay eggs, they dig a shallow hole in the sand to lay those eggs, and then they'll put their head down there to turn the eggs. And so it can appear that their head's in the sand, but really all they're doing is turning eggs. And the other time is they can sense a predator before the predator is actually within sight. And so they are the fastest bird on the planet. And I can't remember if it said that they're the fastest animal on the planet. Maybe not, but they can, I think it said that it's not unusual for an ostrich to be able to run, I want to say 45 miles per hour. So I don't know how fast cheetahs are. I know they're fast. And that is one of their predators. Lions, those quick cats are the ones that go after ostriches. And so an ostrich will often, if they sense a predator coming, they will put their head down and lay it on the sand because I guess it creates some kind of an optical illusion to the predator, and they don't always know that that's an ostrich, and so they'll, not come and investigate. And so it's just to create an illusion, and that's where people think, oh, they're putting their head in the sand to avoid the predator. And it was I was thinking about when I was a really little kid, and in my dreams even I would often, like, if I was afraid of something or I didn't want somebody to see me, I would just close my eyes when I was a little girl, because I thought, then if I can't see you, you can't see me. And I could never figure out how my mom could still find where I was at. So that was like, 2-3 years old. But I know for a while in my dreams that nightmares, if I was having a nightmare that something was chasing me and I knew I couldn't outrun it, I would just sit down and in the nightmare and close my eyes, and then I would feel the monster go on by me because it couldn't see me, and just never peek. So those childhood things that that we believe. But anyway, so even though ostriches don't put their heads in the sand, we still understand what that little saying means. And I think it's time to for us to really get smart here and not be in denial and not think that the things that are going on around us, and there's a lot of things going around us. In fact, some of you might be in the middle of some of those things, and that it affects you because you're affected. But we need to really look at this and understand that, we've got a global problem going on here, and that even if you're not affected at this moment, you're going to be. At some point you are. Now, how is it going to affect you? We don't know. But so we kind of have to basically be prepared for whatever case scenario it might be. And so today I want to talk about 3 services that we all have into our homes, 3 conveniences that, the majority of people have in their homes. And what would you do if either one of those, any of those or combination of those systems were to go down? How would you survive? So that is dealing with electricity, our source of power, the plumbing, water coming into, your home, and then the sewage system when the water and whatever leaves your home. Those 3 systems, the majority of people have those in their homes. And most of us have had those our entire lives. We didn't have to live without them. Now, I had different people in my family and different friends that didn't always have those systems in their home, especially septic system. I knew several people when I was growing up. It was still Marvin has even talked about like his grandparents. I don't think they even had electricity. So they didn't have electricity and they didn't have a septic system, but I think they might have had plumbed water. I can't remember. And of course, he won't come on camera with me. Yeah, because he knows you just fall in love with him and you'd forget about me. And I'm like, that's fine. I know I fell in love with him and forgot about me. So he's a pretty awesome guy. But anyway, so I can't ask him now for sure on those three because he's not in the room. But I know that it was not uncommon to go visit some people. And if you had to go to the bathroom, you went to the outhouse. Outhouses were still a semi-common thing in the lives of many people I knew growing up. So I know the joy of an outhouse. Never did like them. But there's other things you can do. You don't have to have an outhouse. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do and how to live without these systems. I may share with you some of the things that I have in my planning, as my backups, and in case that might work for you. But everybody's situations are different. Everybody's skill levels are different. And so it's important for you to figure out what's going to work for you. And I want you to know this. You can do this. A couple hundred years ago in America, nobody had electricity. Nobody had indoor plumbing, no of any kind, no septic system, anything. And the majority of the history of this earth is people have lived without those three systems in their homes. And even now, there are many places, many countries that you can go to where people are living without them. And here in America, we have some people that are living without them by choice, and so that they don't have to worry about it going down because they didn't have it to begin with. And for me personally, that's kind of, if I was the only person I had to worry about, I think I would choose to live that way so that I didn't have the bills and I didn't have to worry about the systems going down because they're not even there. And I think I could do it. I think I could do it actually quite happily. But it's more the people around me I'm not sure could. So anyway, and probably wouldn't get as many visitors if they knew, oh, she doesn't have electricity, she doesn't have running water, and she doesn't have a flushing toilet. Yeah, that might stop somebody right there. So I might be more lonely. I don't know. But anyway, this is something that I think that, I know we can do it and that we can figure out what to do and what will work for us. And for those of you that are followers of Jesus, let me just say, you've got an added advantage because God knows exactly what to do and how to do it and how to let you know. So, and I will say that a lot of the things that, that my backup systems are because God showed me things, and he's either, opened the door so somebody shared something with me through a video or in person or whatever, or just dropped it in here. And it's, I'm not a genius. I'm not that brilliant, but I've had some pretty brilliant things enter my head at times, and I know it's the Lord. So, but with that said, I also know a lot of people that are like, well, I'm just trusting God, so I'm not going to worry about it. If that time comes, God will take care of me and he'll show me what to do. And I've said that. And sometimes there's some things I'm not prepared for. It never even occurred to me to be. And the Lord's got me through it. But there are things when he's given us a warning sign and let us know what's coming, and we still put our head in the sand and go, when the time gets here, he'll let me know. When he's saying, look, I'm telling you to get ready. So, if Noah had said, well, it's never rained before, I don't know what it is. So when the time comes, I'm trusting the Lord to put a vessel here to put us in, because I really don't feel like getting up every morning and working on building this ginormous ship out in the desert where there isn't even any water, and the things people are going to, do you know how much time that's going to take? Do you know how hard that's going to be on my body? Do you know how crazy people are going to think I am? But see, God he gave him the heads up, and he said, here's what you need to do. And it took time, because from the time God told him what was coming until it actually happened was 100 years. But when that 100 years was up, and when the day came and God said, go get in the ark, what do you know? There was an ark for him to go get in, and it was built the way God told him to build it. And God put him and his family and those animals in there and sealed it up so that the water couldn't enter in, and they were safe. They probably weren't always comfortable, but they were safe. They were, because they had done what God told them to do. So as a follower of Jesus, let me encourage you to be talking to God and asking him, what is it that I need to be doing? And if you're not a follower of Jesus, I highly recommend that you become one, because you need him. In the good and the bad, no matter what, you need Jesus. All right, so let's get to those systems. One of the things that I think, we have to do is we have to think about first, like, let's just take electricity. What in my home requires electricity? What is it that I depend on? And maybe don't even think about it. Is it heat? Is that how I heat my home? Does it take electricity? Because even if you have an oil furnace, you still need electricity. There's electricity that's needed for most things. Even the gas heaters require electricity to power them. So it may not be the fuel that they burn, but the fans and things that they run off the electricity. So you need some kind of a heat source that you don't need to have electricity. So it may be, I know, like, we've got a big kerosene heater that just sits in the middle of the floor, and you light it and it heats the home. Well, you put kerosene in it and then it heats the home. But I also know that kerosene is outrageously expensive right now. And so it could be a backup if we didn't have power. But for us, we have, we use wood heat. Now, with all our being prepared, we did not really fully understand how severe a winter it was going to be. And we're not done, because next week we've got another snowstorm that they think, bad snowstorm. Every day they seem to think it's going to be worse than they thought the day before. And they're more and more sure that it is going to hit us. So we, quite possibly by this time next week, will be buried in snow again. And our temperatures are, in the next 7 days at night, there's only one night that's above freezing. And then there's several days that don't even get above freezing. So we still have some major cold weather coming, starting here in a couple of days. So the last of our firewood is in the house. It's not enough to get us through all of that. So we will hope that our backup will function for us if we don't have enough heat. And because the wood, we produce our own firewood, and we don't have any that's not, everything we have left is still too green to burn, and it's actually for next year. So, because the wood that they're working on now is for next year, and burning green wood is not safe, and it's not very efficient. I mean, it doesn't really heat very well either. So, yeah, we've got, we, even being prepared, we've kind of ended up where we need to go to our backup. And so we'll see how it all goes. All right. I have I use a propane stove to cook on, but it has an electric start on it. So you can light it with a match, but it's, have you done it? If you're in that situation, and because this is the other thing, don't just go, well, I know I could do this, but try it out so that you know what you're doing. Practice. Practice with your backup systems to make sure it's going to work. And do you know how to do it safely so you don't blow yourself up? You don't let the gas keep running and then light the match. So anyway, there's a lot of things that we need to do some research so we know what we're doing and how that it's going to work, so that when the time comes, we can function. You do most people's laundry. requires electricity, but yet you can do with a bucket in your hands and some water and soap. You can do your own laundry. But do you have a bucket? Do you have, what you need? Have you ever done it? Because it's hard work. And if you've got a plunger, then it makes it a little easier to do it, not having to just get down on your, with your hands and get in there. Some people have backup systems where it tumbles. You put your laundry into this barrel and you put in the soap and the water, and then you just crank the handle and it tumbles. And that's something I've often thought I should get. I just haven't had the money to go get one, but that would be a wonderful backup system. But if not, I've got an old wash tub. I used to have the washboards, and I sold those as antiques years ago. And now I wish I would have kept one. So, but I can do a plunger, or I can do it with my hands. I have been without laundry many times in my life and had to do my laundry by hand in a bathtub. And, you can do that too. So do you have some place to hang your clothes to dry? What would you do without these systems? So one of the first things is taking a mental inventory, maybe even writing it down. These are the things I depend on for having electricity. So if there's a grid down power outage, what would I do? Because some people will tell you, it's not always just for an hour or two, but there are people who are, who have been through some of these storms, some of these fires and all, and they're going on weeks of no power and having to find a way to adapt. And that is one thing about being a human being, is it is put into us to adapt. And that's in you. There is an instinct in you. You're just going to have to tap into it. But I find thinking ahead and figuring it out, for us, everything, even our plumbing and our sewage system, runs on electricity because we have a well and a septic tank. And to get those pumps to get the water into the house, and the pumps to get the water out of the septic tank into the drain field, all that takes electricity. So for us, when we're without electricity, we're without everything. So believe me, because we've been without power before, we a long time ago have had to figure out, what do you do when you don't have running water? What do you do when you don't have a septic system? And so then that's the other thing. How would you get water? If there is no water available. So we stock up water in our home. We get, if something comes in to the home in a heavy, because I found it needs to be a heavy plastic, because some of the thin milk jugs and stuff, those things eventually break down and you'll get little holes. I've had to clean up a couple of floods from those, but the really heavy plastic, whenever there's a big jug of that somebody maybe got orange juice or something like that, then afterwards we don't throw it away. We fill it with water and it goes into a cabinet or under a sink or wherever, and we've got stashed all over the house. And we can use that for all kinds of things that we can use. And we don't use it for drinking water, but we can use it to wash with or whatever. We don't use it for cooking. Although I do have a water purifier that I could run it through, and then we could use it for those things. But that was expensive to get. I got it years ago. And that's one of my systems, and I use it all the time. That's how I do my drinking water anyway. And for cooking, just as an added precaution and step, even though I'm sure our water's fine in our well, it's probably way better than most people have. But I do have that as a backup, and part of that is, if you have that, you have to be using it to keep the filters primed so they work, and you have to maintain them, you have to clean them ever so often, and you have to flush those filters ever so often to keep them in good working order, doing what they need to do. So how would you get water? Do you have something backed up to be able to use it? Because that water that we store in those jugs, we can always boil that too. We can boil it on the wood stove. I can manually light my gas stove. As long as I've got propane, I could do it there if I had to. use, because we've got wood we would never burn in our wood stove, like pine and stuff around here. But I could do an outdoor fire and boil water outside even if I had to. So I have several things already going. So what would you do? What if you did not have access to your septic system, if it was down, and we've been through that before, where I know one year our septic started acting like it was full. And usually if you've got a good running system, it never really gets full. If you treat it right, you can go for 20 years or more and never need to get it pumped. But and we are pretty good with our septic system and how to do that. But sometimes things happen. Well, we had this situation happen, and it was when my mom and dad were living here, and it was all of a sudden, it was, their toilet was bubbling, and my mom's like, something's not right. And so checked the septic tank, and it was full. And it's like, that thing never gets full. So we had it pumped and had the guy, the pump on the septic system had gone out. So we were without septic. Well, Marvin pulled the old pump out and got a new pump to put in. And so we were without it for a little bit. And, and we had another time where the float got stuck. So it wasn't pumping the water out. It wasn't telling the pump to turn on. And, and I didn't even know that my septic tank had a float in it, and that's another thing, learning what systems you have and how they work. I'm learning that that's important, even as just the little old housewife, that it's good to know these things. So we've been at times where we've been without the septic system maybe for a day, and which isn't too bad if it's just a day, but still, what do? We have, if something happens, we're like, okay, here's what we do. And, and so we will not be taking any showers. We do not run, do any laundry. We're not running the dishwasher. We're not, if there's a little wiggle room, then you can, do dishes by hand or whatever, but you're trying to keep as little going throughout that system as you can. And then there's other times when it's like, we can't have anything go through the system until we get it pumped and find out what's going on, and what we need to fix. So we have a whole routine and that we just go into. Is it fun? No. Is it pleasant? No. Is it inconvenient? Absolutely. But that's life. It happens sometimes. So we've gone through. Now, one of the things I've done, and I did this back when my parents were still living, because my mother needed to have a bathroom. So she had situations with her health that she could not, she needed a toilet and she needed it often. And so I took a 5-gallon bucket and I put a garbage bag in that 5-gallon bucket as a liner, a heavy duty one. Then I took like a pool noodle and I cut it into sections, and because it had this actually was not a pool noodle. It's like a pool noodle, but it was made for putting over your pipes and stuff for insulation. That's what I used, because it had a slit already cut in it. And so I cut it off into, and then into short sections. Then that slit I would put over, I still have it. It's right in that room, right over there, because it's my backup toilet. And because now I need toilets. So it just fits over the rim. And in those sections, then you can go around in the circle. Because I tried doing it in a circle and the thing just kept wanting to pop off. So I just cut it into little sections. And it makes a very nice cushioned seat. My mother needed a toilet to set up high. Well, you just set it on something that raises it up to get it at the right level. And then I save. Well, I don't do it right now because I've got tons of them, but I started saving my coffee grounds and drying them out completely because they work beautifully because I tried it out, keeping the smell down stuff. So, you do it like kitty litter, and you could get kitty litter and use that, but I like something that's more natural, going to break down where the kitty litter won't. But you could even just use dirt or whatever. But you come up with a medium. Some people use sawdust, but the sawdust to me was smelly. That didn't work very good. The coffee grounds is what I liked the best, and I produce a lot of coffee grounds. And even if I didn't, you can go like to a coffee shop, and a lot of times they will happily give you a big bucket of their coffee grounds that they've used. But the important thing is to spread it out and dry it out completely so it doesn't mold. And then I've got a big container that I just store that in, and I've got plenty of coffee grounds right now. So I've been composting the rest into my garden, but because it's great fertilizer. Anyway, just a little extra tip there. You do your business, then you cover it up with whatever medium you're using, in my case, coffee grounds, and you're good to go. And if you want, you can keep the lid and you can pull that, your foam noodle off when you're not using it and put the lid on it as an added thing. And then just put that in the bathroom, and that's where people can go. So, and when we did that, we tried it out with, I tried it out with my mom to make sure she really could do it and that she could safely get on and off of it, and how we had to do it so that if we went without a septic system again, because you can only do so much business in that toilet, and if you do too much, and especially with paper and stuff, before you can flush it, you can end up with another plumbing problem and a backed up toilet when it's time to flush the toilet. So thankfully we didn't have to go too terribly long with for her. But I knew that if we ever did have an extended thing, and she loved the bucket. She wanted to have to use the bucket. It was funny, but it works. And I've kept that thing, and you can, with vinegar is all you need to spray on there to clean it and disinfect it, and on your foam thing that you've got on there, and it's good, and it's very comfortable, and it works fine. So that's my backup toilet. There's a lot of things you can do. Some people have an actual composting toilet that they paid over $1,000 for, and that's their backup system. That's great. I can't afford to do something like that. And this, I used stuff I already had, so it really didn't cost me anything, nothing extra. So, because I just used what I had. And that's something where Marvin and I have a good mindset, and we're pretty good at being able to figure out a way to use what we have to make it work for whatever our situation is. But thinking about these things, what do you do? How are you going to get water? We have a hand pump for our well. We just haven't installed it. So I ask Marvin all the time, if we had no power for an extensive period of time, what does it take? Do we have what we need to put the hand pump in and be able to use it? And I think he's assured me that we're good to go, that we can do that. So I don't know. We'll see. That's not my department, so I don't get to all plumbing and electrical work is his. So, but anyway, the thing is, think through, make a list. What are the things that you depend on? What would you do if they go down? Now, for those of you who are on city water and city sewer, and you think, well, I never have to worry about that. Think again. I know that here we've had multiple situations where, usually from the chicken plant, something has leaked into the groundwater, and people on city water have been told that they have to boil their water or bring in bottled water. And that's the other thing. If the systems go down and you think you're going to be able to go out and get a bunch of bottled water, and well, yeah, that's what everybody else is doing too. So that may not be your answer. And if you buy bottled water in advance and try to store it up, please know that water in that plastic starts to break down, and pretty soon you will taste. I don't care if it's the BP free or whatever, you will start tasting that plastic in your water, and it's not good for you. Again, if you had a purifier system, you could probably run it through the purifier and it would be fine. But and a lot of the water bottles that the bottled water comes in now is very thin plastic, so you can also end up with the spring a leak thing as that plastic breaks down. Yeah, there's a lot to think about. So and whatever supply you have is only going to take you so long. We know that with all the bottled water that we've kept up for whatever we might need it for you know, once it's gone, it's gone. And if we don't have a way to replenish it, then what are we going to do? So we, you know, for Marvin and I, we're usually thinking about how could we do something indefinitely, a system that we could work with, even though it's not convenient, it's harder work and all of that, but it would get us by as long as we need to go. So it's thinking it through now and knowing that those systems can go down. Even your public sewer can go down. I have lived in some cities, and especially old cities, okay, that have been a big city for a long time. And I've lived in a couple of places that their systems that they had were like 120 years old or so. And we ended up with no water, and we've ended up with no sewer out of those city systems. And it usually was because the maintenance that, you know, when you're doing a whole city, you're not going and digging up those pipes and replacing them or whatever. When there's a breakage, well, then I guess we got to replace it. And that breakage can have you without water, without septic or sewer system for days. I know we were in one situation where it wasn't a big city, but it was an old town. And we were without a sewer system for almost a week. That was not good. And there's not a whole lot you can do. What about your garbage? What if you can't, what if you can't afford your garbage anymore? You know, right now where we live, there are soaring electric bills. And there's two companies that we could use at our home. Now, the one we use is not the one that's really gone crazy, but the other one has really gone crazy, and people that thought they were never going to have a problem are now facing their electricity being shut off. Now, the places said they won't shut anybody off in February because that's what it is right now, and we've got more cold weather coming and stuff. But at the end of February, this woman, she said, what do we do then? Because then they will start shutting us off. And this one woman on the news last night was talking about, and it sounds like she lives with her daughter, and her daughter's electric bill was over $900 for the month. I don't care how much money you got. To me, I just don't even see how that's doable. Now, she's canceling her cable TV and everything, non-essential thing that she can cancel just to try to be able to afford her electric bills. And, you know, and they're saying that the electric company saying that the bills have gotten so high. Number one, they had to raise the rates because their supplier raised the rates on them. And then the other thing, it's been super extra cold, and most people require electricity to heat their homes in one way or another. And so, you know, they're using it more, and that's why the bills are so high. And they do need to get a handle on it because the rates go up again in July. What are you going to do? You got to figure something out. So there are people right now that 2 months ago were saying, I'm not worried about it. It's not going to affect me. We got this. You know, if the bills go up a little bit, I'll make things a little tighter, but we got it. And now they're like, we can't do this. Now it's affecting them. People that did not think it would affect them are struggling. People who make plenty of money are trying to figure out how they're going to pay their electric bill and keep the electricity on. So what if you have to start letting things go just to keep certain, you know, and you have to figure out what's most important, you know, can you haul your own garbage? Because let me tell you, we can haul our garbage for the whole year for less money than it would cost us for 1 month to have it picked up. That's a huge money saver for us. Do you know how to haul your own garbage? I mean, it may be a friend of mine, she was like, I'm going to have to start hauling my own garbage. So, you know, can I ride along with you to the dump sometime so I can see what the process is? What does it cost? You know, how do you have to have your stuff done? Could I do this with my car? Well, you know, I was in a situation once where I couldn't afford to have garbage pickup, and it was just me. And I just had my same little car I have now. And, so I just would bag up my garbage and put it in the back of my car and go to the dump, and for a couple of dollars, that's all it was back then. It would be a little more than that now. But even now, the minimal load, which is quite a bit, I think it's a ton, something like that. I think it's less than $8 still to take a ton of garbage. So anyhow, it is not that expensive to haul your own garbage. And that may be something that you need to figure out. Can you do it? Do you have to have a truck? No. Do you, is it really expensive or hard to do? No, it can be done. So, and there's some, I know there's some places here, some recycling places that they have that you can, I guess, buy a coupon and you can leave your bagged garbage there for pickup, and so that you don't even have to go to the landfill if the landfill's far away. So you got to figure out where you're at. What are the things you depend on? If you have to start letting things go just to keep paying for your house or whatever, how are you going to do it? Are you willing to downsize and move into something smaller that is more affordable? What are you willing to do? What can you do? What are your backups? So the whole thing of thinking it's never going to happen to you, that needs to go out the window, okay? And you need to get out of denial and know that somehow, some way, you will be affected by all the things that are taking place. Do you have your, and I ask you guys these questions sometimes. I have to go, ooh, Angie, you need to do that too. But are all your important papers in a fireproof box so that if your house burnt down, you still have access to things you need to have access to? What are you going to do? So today, I'm just saying it's time to get our heads out of the sand and start doing a real sincere inventory of our life and what we depend on, and have a backup system for all of those things. What would I do if I can't do that? How am I, that way, then how am I going to meet my basic needs? And what is really important, and what am I willing to let go of if need be? And already have that worked out, so that, because in the moment, when, especially if there's any kind of feeling of panic or fear, it's very hard to think. So it's best to already have a plan ready and write it down, so that when that time comes, you can just go, okay, here's what I need to do. Here's what I had figured out. So I'll take care of that. Cable's going now. Cell phones are going, whatever it is you're going to let go of. I mean, for Marvin and I, it ended up, the only thing we had left to get, and we used to joke about, was to let go of buying food. And, then it really happened. And what do you do? Now, we didn't know what to do. And as the food was disappearing and there wasn't going to be any more, the Lord, I've told that story many times, then led us to a food pantry that helped out, and started showing us things that are available to help us. And so, those food pantries that once were pretty abundant are pretty skimpy now. And so it's even a matter of getting some self-discipline going and being able to maybe ration your food, maybe rationing your electricity. In your house, all the things you power with electricity, in order to keep that bill. I mean, we've been through that. We go through that constantly. What are we willing to unplug? What can we unplug to help keep that bill down? So, something to think about. Get your head out of the sand and start being proactive. Test out the things that you think are going to be your backups. Try them. Do you know how to do it? Is it really possible? Do you have everything you need? So do practice runs. I used to, in high school, I was very involved in the drama department. And, you didn't just learn your lines and then get up and do the play. We had lots and lots of rehearsals, and we even had a dress rehearsal so that we knew what it felt like to have the makeup on our face and the costumes on our bodies, and anything that needed to be tweaked with that. We tried it out like we were actually doing it. And so I'm telling you, with your systems in your life, you need to have rehearsals and dress rehearsals. You need to practice and make sure you've got everything you need. All right. Now, this is a Survival Saturday video, so I'm going to add on to that I've been having a little problem uploading. I hope this will be uploaded for Saturday, but even if it doesn't and it comes up on a different day of the week, I'm still doing it, even though it's Survival Saturday. But I'm going to hope and pray for the best that it will go up for Saturday. All right, so with that, I love you guys. You have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you again real soon.